Record.
Fantastic. Have a good meeting.
All right, thank you. All right, welcome everyone to the Scituate Board of Health meeting for Monday, December 9th, 2024. And I would like to first just have a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Accept.
Okay, and then John, how do you vote?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
And Karen, I vote yes as well, so we can proceed. So the first item on the agenda is review of the septic for 140 River Street, and we have Grady Consulting representing the homeowner.
I'm sorry, who, we
Yeah,
can find
Darren Grady has to
Yep.
unmute.
that, what, let's make that happen. Hold on. Mr. Grady, you should be good to go.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Hold on one sec. Okay, can I share my screen?
You may.
Okay, can you see the plan for 140 River Street?
We can.
Okay. Would you like me to present right now?
That would be great if you could.
Okay, so this is the site's 140 River Street. It's a 5,000 square foot lot along the South River. South River is in the back here. River Street is in the front here. There's a big ramp going down to the South River here. And this area here is a concrete retaining wall. It's about 2.5 feet tall. And within it there's an existing D box here. There's a water service here, and there's also a gas service. The existing septic tank is right underneath this footing. I'm going to zoom up on it. So it's right in here. The existing leaching trenches are right in here. They were scoped out a couple years ago. They were 28 feet long. The existing leaching fields are in failure right now. So we're proposing to replace them with a jet model J500 and 2 leaching trenches that are 32 feet long by 2 feet deep by 2 feet wide. The soil here is very good, and actually groundwater is pretty good too, as far as depth. So the soil is less than 2, as it is always in Hummerock, but no water at 9 feet 4 inches. This was at an 11 feet high tide and witnessed by Ralph Cole, even with the river so close. So what the site is very limited in the room that you can work in here between the building and the lot line here and the adjacent lot line here. It's got an existing shed here, and what we did is try to fit those leaching trenches the best we could in here. In order to get this approved through Title V, we need to request local upgrade approvals. I'll read them off to you. Let's see if I can. So we're asking for an increase in the allowable depth of cover on a trench from 3 feet to 5.2 feet. Reduction in system soil absorption system location setbacks from the property line to from 10 feet to 0.1 feet, and that's the front setback to the street. So that would be along this line here. We are asking for a reduction in system location setbacks to the septic tank from 10 feet to 0.9 feet. And that's along the front lot line as well. We're asking for a reduction in system location setbacks from the cellar wall from the soil absorption system from 20 feet to 6.1 feet. And that's shown here. We're asking for a reduction in system location setbacks to the cellar wall from the septic tank from 10 feet to 8 feet. And a reduction in local, in system location setbacks to a wetland from 50 feet to 47.2 feet. And then we're asking to allow us to use one test hole. There is treatment here, and we're using the Jet Model J500 to reduce the system size by 35%. We could go to 50%, but we're trying to get the system as large as we could. We have a Conservation Commission meeting next Monday, so they will need to approve it at that meeting. We believe the system is an improvement over the existing system, since groundwater separation will be improved, and actually the function of the infiltration will be improved as well. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, Darren, I was wondering if you could just take us through, we did have one abutter concern and it looks like that's been addressed, but can you take us through kind of your process around that?
Yes, so we the abutter to the what is this? The south had reached out to us a couple times, so we had a site meeting with him to try to address his concerns. So the previous plan, we had a 3-foot setback right here to the trench. What we did, we pushed it up to the septic tank as much as we could, and we got to perforate the pipes all the way, so we have a 1-foot sidewall on all sides, and we were able to get 2 more feet over here. And he also had a concern about possible odor from the vent and it being placed along the property line. So we moved that over to the shed over here. After we met, he did write a letter to the board. So I don't believe all of his concerns are met, but we did try to meet them and change the plan to hopefully alleviate those concerns. Does that answer the questions?
It does. Yep, I appreciate you taking us through that. I don't have other questions. Allison or John, do you have questions?
No,
No, I mean, what are you referring to that you weren't able to address all of them? Is there someone in particular, couple in particular?
Yes. So, I won't speak for him, but I'll paraphrase a little bit.
Okay.
We're asking for a 5-foot setback here. He believes
Okay.
he's development rights as he can't put his water line right up against the property line
Okay.
because there's a 10-foot required setback to this leaching field, and this is if he would ever develop his lot. And also he loses an area in here for possible new construction, is what he said, for the expansion of his septic system, where he couldn't go within there. And my understanding is you wouldn't allow that anyway for new construction, but he'd be required to have a 10-foot setback. But that was
Okay.
those were the concerns he was talking about.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does someone want to make a motion?
no, can we open
Wait,
up?
do you
the
wanna,
audience?
is there somebody on the phone, Paul, that wants to speak? First,
You just have to raise your hand if you want to speak so we can unmute you.
Ms. Conley, it looks like you got no virtual hands raised.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks, Seth.
all right. Okay,
Okay, back to the motion. Anyone want to make a motion?
Allison?
oh, you can't, you ready?
Yeah, I mean, I make a motion to approve pending the meeting on Monday. That sound,
Can you just
good.
go through the specifics on the
oh yeah,
action?
sure. To allow the increase of allowable depth of the trench from 3.3 feet to 5.2 feet. Allow for the reduction in the SAS location from the required 10 feet to the property line to 0.1 feet. To allow for the reduction in the septic tank location from the required 10 feet to the property line of 0.9 feet. Let me see, sorry. To allow for the reduction of the SAS location from the required 20 feet to the cellar wall to 6.1 feet. Allow the reduction in the septic tank location from required 10 feet to the cellar wall to 8 feet. I may have read that before, but I apologize. Number 6 is to allow the reduction in the SAS location from the required 50 feet to a wetland to 47.2 feet, and to allow for 1 deep hole per disposal waste.
I approve. I second.
Okay, second and approved from John. Allison, how do you vote?
I approve.
And I approve as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
You're
Dear.
welcome.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is 1 Tilden, represented by Morse. Do we need to unmute Greg, Seth? There we go. I think you're ready to go, Greg.
I am. Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to do a share screen and put a copy of the plan up for you to look at.
Great.
Great. You can see the screen now?
We can.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. For the record, my name's Gregory Morse. I'm a registered engineer with Morse Engineering, representing the property owner near Drury. This is a septic system plan that we've designed at 1 Tilden Ave. 1 Tilden Ave is located in the Minot section of town, almost at the end of Glades Road. Looking at the plan here, the property line is the bold black line. It's a relatively small lot. It's only 653 square feet in size. There was a home on this property. The home, you can see it in the light gray, overhung the lot line on the north side. It directly abutted the property line on the eastern side, and it took up a majority of the lot. When Mr. Drury purchased this property a little over a year ago, I came before the Board of Health and got permission to install a tight tank at the property. The tight tank was located right here where my cursor is, between what was then the existing house and the Tilden Ave property line. The proposal now in those tight tanks were installed and a certificate of compliance issued. The proposal now is to do a raise and reconstruct of the entire dwelling. This was an existing 1-bedroom house. We would be putting back a new 1-bedroom house in its place. The new house would be elevated on piles. This is located in the floodplain. So the new house is represented by this smaller box, this bold line. Again, it's going up as a 1-bedroom house. It would be constructed on piles, fully FEMA compliant. What that does is it allows us room underneath the house in between the piles to construct an actual septic system so that it's not serviced by a tight tank. We would decommission and remove the tight tank that was in the ground, that's in the ground today, and we would install in its place underneath the house a new 1,500-gallon septic tank and a new 19-foot long crushed stone leaching field, 19 foot by 8 foot wide between the piles. Soils here, we had groundwater that was fairly deep and it was relatively sandy soil as we would expect. But there were a list of 4 local upgrade approvals that we would need for approval of this plan, mainly with respect to property line setbacks. The 4 local upgrade approvals are identified on the plan here. The first one being a reduction between the septic tank and the property lines. Typically, it's a 10-foot requirement. We'd be asking for a 3.4-foot setback. The second one is a reduction from the property line to the soil absorption system leaching field. 10 feet is the requirement. 3.9 is what we can accommodate. The third one is a reduction in the groundwater. Typically, it's a 5-foot groundwater separation. We would ask for a 4-foot groundwater separation. And the last one is a reduction from 10 feet to 1.7 feet between the soil absorption system and the water supply line for the house. As I stated earlier, it's a very small lot. we feel that we've greatly improved the setbacks, not only to the house that's on this property, but also with the septic that's out there. Adjacent properties have similar constraints. This project has been fully approved by the zoning board. It has been fully approved by the Conservation Commission. The existing house was recently taken down, and we're looking forward to putting back a new one in its place. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great.
How high is the, sorry,
No, go ahead. Go ahead, John.
how high is the house elevated from the ground?
Sure. So the ground surface here is at elevation 12 is the ground surface, and the first floor elevation is at elevation 22. So it's approximately 10 feet in the air.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Joan, is there anything else we need to know? from-
No, we were just concerned that they wouldn't be able to access it, but it's gonna be high and the house will be high enough so they'll be able to access the leaching field. We don't, it's really a tight spot. There's not much else they can do. It's only a 1-bedroom and we have a 1-bedroom deed restriction on file. And it was already registered with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds.
Great. Okay. Anyone in the audience have any questions about this property? Just raise your hand if you do. I'm not seeing anything. Allison, any questions from your perspective?
No, good. Thank
Okay,
you.
could you make a motion?
Sure. I make a motion to approve.
And then
Go
read through
through.
the.
Oh,
the
yeah,
word
I'll read them.
verbiage.
Sorry. Make a motion to allow a reduction from 10 feet to 3.4 feet proposed between septic tank and property lines. To allow a reduction from 10 feet to 3.9 feet proposed between SAS and property lines. To allow a reduction from 5 feet to 4 feet proposed between groundwater in the bottom of the SAS. And to allow a reduction from 10 feet to 1.7 feet proposed between SAS and water supply line.
Okay,
I second.
before we continue, I see a hand raised that wasn't there before, so. Seth,
I do wanna note too that for both of these, we did get a butter cards, so
Oh, great, thank
make a
you.
note. We do have them on file.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Conley, let's do this real quick. Alan G, you should be able to unmute. Just state your name, address, and go ahead with your comment. Thank you so much.
Alan, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yep, we can.
Okay, hold on. Let me get off this phone. Okay. So I was on the call earlier for the 140 septic system design, but for some reason I couldn't unmute my microphone to talk. Am I too late for that now, since you voted on it?
We have already voted on it.
Yes, I had some concerns that I wanted to bring up. That, is it too late?
I mean, I'm sure we could hear your concerns. I don't know if we could reverse the vote.
Okay, well, is it okay for me to talk now, or did I?
Yeah,
should-
can I have you hold on just for 1 minute and let's
Yes.
get through this one Tilden and vote on that just so we have that and then go back to your comments. Is that okay?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, so Allison, you made a motion. John,
I
Richard,
second.
second. Okay, and how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Yes.
Allison
Vote
votes yes, and
yes.
I vote yes. So that's approval for 1 Tilden.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Okay, Alan, back to you with floor is yours.
yes. So some of the concerns I had with this design was, the first thing he's asking for a setback from the property line of 5 feet. But in the area where it says local upgrade approval request, item 2, He is saying he wants to go from 10 feet to 0.1 foot. He doesn't really distinguish between the abutter property line and the street line. And I'd like to see if I could have that added where he wants to go from 10 feet to 5 feet variance on the abutting property.
It's
Yeah, I don't know if we can
Too late.
change that now.
You
And
can't.
he's actually not on the
He's
calling.
not on the line right now either.
Right, I know. I couldn't get my headset working.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah,
We did go through some of the changes they did make though, based on your feedback after you walked the property with them. So we did approve all those changes.
So
you
we
did.
do, and you should know that the Board of Health does do inspections on the leaching field. And we bring,
Right.
that we have the plan when it gets approved. So we do that to make sure it
Yeah.
matches the plan.
Well, some of the other issues I had with this is that, and he kind of said half of it, but he didn't state it the way I would have stated it. By approving this plan, you kind of introduce an adverse effect onto my property. It creates where I'm limited to expand my current system. It also prevents me from putting my water line on near the property line, which would allow me to expand my system another 10 feet. So by letting him have a variance within that 10 foot, it prevents my water line from being moved over. And with those two things, when I want to expand my system, I'm then going to have to apply for a variance myself, which I might or might not get.
Why would you be expanding your system?
Because I have a third floor that I might want to put bedrooms into
Okay.
someday, which would require a larger system.
So-
Or I
Okay.
don't know why I would want to expand it. I just want the ability to, if I need to expand it, that I can without having to go for variances.
Okay, so currently your septic system is 20 feet from the property line and
Right,
it's about 15 feet from the water line.
right. But if I wanted to expand my septic
Mhm.
system, I would have to move the water line over so that I am then 10 feet away from my septic. But because his septic is now 5 feet from the property line, I'm unable to move that over.
Okay, so like other homes in Hammerock, you would need to hire an engineer that would determine if you could upgrade, first of
Yes.
all. And secondly, if they did submit a plan, then those upgrade requests would have to come to the board.
Right, and currently I don't have to do that
Mhm.
if his system is 10 feet away from the property line.
So, yeah, I'm not really sure where else he can put his system on that,
Well,
the
the
location
other,
of that. And he does have a 4-bedroom system with a failed leaching field currently.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I was recommending is, I've asked them, but they kind of overlooked it. Why can't they slide this over 5 feet by putting the tank where that distribution box is? They have plenty of room within that retaining wall area to put that box.
Near the retaining wall? To put the
Is
box has to be near the leaching field.
Yeah, but you see where the old distribution box is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay, so
but
why can't,
there's an overhang there.
no, there is not an overhang there, miss. Where the current distribution box is where it says 23.2. It seems
But
like they have,
they would have to turn, the tank won't fit.
possibly, that I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, the tank
That's,
won't fit. So, that really wouldn't work, putting the distribution box there.
Well, why can't they just slide it over 5 feet? The septic tank. Put it underneath the wall.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
have to go with the engineer makes the determination on the site. It's
right,
really, this is an engineer plan and he plans it accordingly with the site that they have.
right.
And I think
So
they did try to make several adjustments to accommodate some of your concerns too, and it wasn't possible to accommodate all of them. So I think they
Right.
did make a good faith effort to
They
make.
did. I agree with that. But now when I want to expand my system, I'm gonna have to apply for a variance, which I might get or not get. That is my main concern, that we don't know what the future will bring. And this might prevent me from doing something that I would like to do.
I,
And what,
I would say this, that being in Hummerock, as long as I've been on the board, and granting variances in Hummerock are routine because of the constraints that we have down there. And we do everything we can to accommodate everybody down there to make sure that, you know, if they have an existing lot with a building with 4 bedrooms or 5 bedrooms, we're gonna make sure that that's what they get back there again, because you guys have rights too, so we can always
And
sleeve water lines and make
in
sure
all
that.
cases, when we like accept these variances too, it's making it more secure and more, it is improving the septic overall. And so, yeah, we've just as Drew said, we do everything we can to make those exceptions for Hummerock just because there aren't any other options.
And
okay,
Ms. Conley, I do believe you have Mr. Grady back if you want him to weigh in at all.
Yeah, we could, if you want to unmute him, and I don't know if Alan, you want to ask Darren a question directly.
yes, I would like to. Thank you. Hi,
I had
Darren.
just heard that you guys were that Alan was on. Somebody called me, so I got back on.
Oh,
Thank you,
thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Darren.
You're
So
welcome.
one of the questions I have is on the variance request or the upgrade approval request on item 2. You say that you want to, I guess that's a variance. You want to go from 10 feet to 0.1 foot. Is that on the abutters property line or is that the street line?
That's the street line.
Right. And do you have a line item here for the setback from 10 to 5 feet?
For your lot line, I don't,
Yes.
because the point
Yeah,
one covers that. The
Right,
point
it's already
one
asking
is,
for that.
Well, so, but, yeah, but aren't we going from 10 to 5, not 0.1?
we're going to both.
Well, going to both, what does that mean? I mean,
I
either you're
got,
going 5 feet or 0.1 foot to the property line.
no, we're going to both. We have one side of the trench that's going 5 feet from your property line, and we have another side of the trench going 0.1 feet to the street layout line.
So you don't distinguish the setback from the street line from the abutting property line. I'm
Oh, I
asking
do
if
on
you,
my plan clearly shows that.
well, I see the 5, yes, the 5 feet from the property line, but you don't specify that in the local upgrade approval request area. You don't have a line item for that.
You were right. We don't need it.
You don't need it because you have the 5 marked on the plan.
Oh, because we asked for one that was more stringent to 0.1 feet.
Understood. Okay. Does that mean you can go to 0.1 on the abutters line?
We can go to 0.1 to the street line, but we still got to follow the plan, and we still have to stay 5 feet from your lot line.
Okay,
So the board
Oh.
approved the plan.
right. I know they approved the plan. I was having microphone issues and I was on the call, but I couldn't raise my hand for some reason. Okay, so if you're saying you don't need to specify that, then you don't have to. Now on those leaching fields, do the pipes come off of that leaching field any distance?
So one of the changes I made since meeting with you and Jim Triglia is I added the pipes to be shown within the trenches. So the pipes are within the trenches, and I also changed the vent so you can see how the vent comes out of
Right.
the side of the trench.
Yeah, I see that. We changed that. Can you, on that plan, can you say the distance between the vent and the property line? How far that is?
I can scale it for you, sure. It's like 9.5, 10 feet.
Yep, 10 feet. I got 10 feet too.
All right. And the other question I have, Darren, is why can't we use the existing space within the retaining walls where that current distribution box is? Couldn't you like slide that septic box over at least 5 feet?
We would the cost for taking down that wall and also having to reconstruct that area where that wall and cases is a cost uh that we're asking not to have to do from the Board of Health. It's a significant wall. It goes along the street line, or it's in the street line. So we are asking not to have to take down that wall.
And I think we might have to end the conversation here just because we do have other agenda items we have to get to. So I hope that, has answered some of your questions, and I'm sure the two of you can also continue talking offline. As it's really not going to impact the vote since it's already been
Yeah,
done.
I know.
It's
I agree,
okay.
but I just want to express that I have great concern down the line on this approval that this could impact me, that would be harmful to me when I go to expand my system or need to move my water line over to expand my system, that this variance is probably going to hurt me.
Yeah, and I think we've committed to, working with you and your engineer when that time does come, to try to do all we can to help you in that regard. So,
I appreciate that. I hope I hope you're all still on the board when I do that, but thank you very much.
yep, thank you for your comments and questions.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you, Darren, for hopping
Yeah,
back on.
thank you, Darren.
Okay, let's move on to the next agenda item. So this is just a discussion, there's no vote for this one, and we're moving to, and here's my agenda here, to 340 Gannett Road, and again, Greg Morse.
Great, thank you. I'm going to put a share screen up here. Great, you can see the plan?
We can.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Yes, for the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, representing the property owner, DES Properties, Doug Sheeran. Also with me on the call tonight is Steve Bjorkland, who's the owner's consultant in development of this project. We're not looking for any official votes or anything on this tonight. We haven't submitted a formal application to the Board of Health, but I wanted to bring the Board of Health up to speed about a project at 340 Gannett that is currently in front of the planning board, that will likely be approved by the planning board, that will require a septic system approval. And I wanted to get some input on it before we make our formal submittal to the Board of Health. So what you see on the screen here, this is the proposed project at 340 Gannett. This is directly across from 7-Eleven in North Scituate. This is the Salon Taj building. The site is a little over 1.5 acres in size. We would be taking down the existing buildings on the site and constructing this building toward the front of the property. It's a 25-unit apartment building, a multifamily building. Going to the next pages here, I want to bring up my utility plan, or this plan. You can see Gannett Road is on the left-hand side of the screen here. This is where the building would sit. The gray represents the building outline. You can see that we're going to have access from Gannett Road up to a parking lot behind the building. And then beyond the parking lot, back here in this area, the pink area, this is essentially a large lawn surface. And under that lawn surface, we'd be constructing a septic system to accommodate the building. If I zoom into that lawn surface here, this line, this represents the edge of the proposed leaching field. And this gray line around it represents what I anticipate needing for a retaining wall around that leaching field. Okay. The reason why I want to come before you is Town of Scituate Board of Health has in its local supplemental septic system regulations that there's a minimum of a 20-foot setback from a property line to a retaining wall associated with a septic system. And what we were hoping is that we could ask for a waiver from that when we make our formal application, to allow that retaining wall to be closer to the lot line in certain locations. I think this is a case where we've met with all of the direct abutters here. This property right here is a single-family home. He's our closest abutter. Off the back of the site, there are single-family homes several, 100 feet through the woods on Mordecai Lincoln Road. And off to the west over here is the Gannett Marketplace commercial property out front. But what we've spoken to the abutters about is trying to increase our landscape buffer, increase some green space between our property and theirs to prevent any light from going across the property line and try to limit impacts of the building and the parking lot on those residential properties. This retaining wall that goes around the back creates an area between the property line and the retaining wall that you would think would be great for putting in landscape buffering. However, we feel that potentially moving that retaining wall closer to the lot line would allow us to then put buffering on top of the retaining wall higher in elevation, and that's going to be a much more effective landscape screening for the abutters in certain cases. So we were hoping to get some input from the board on whether it's something you would consider waiving. Or if not, we can continue on with this layout here, which does comply with the 20-foot setback. But we're hopeful that, we will work collaboratively with the abutters to come up with a landscaping plan. But it would, I think it would be a much better layout if the retaining wall varied inside of that 20-foot setback in certain locations. And I'd like to also note that, we're hopeful that North Scituate has sewer. I don't know if sewer will be there by the time this building gets built, but I know the Board of Selectmen recently approved the design of the North Scituate sewer. I'm hopeful that would be followed up with construction. This might be a very temporary or short-lived septic system because this building would tie into sewer as soon as it is available. But we just wanted to get your input, see if it's a waiver that you would consider in this case. Title V has no setbacks to retaining walls. Obviously, setbacks to the septic system itself will have to comply with all state requirements and would comply with Scituate requirements, which are only a minimum of 10 feet from the lot lines. We're not asking for any official approvals. We haven't submitted anything officially to you. I guess we just want your input on whether you would consider it or not. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
I have a question. From what I read, doing that would allow you to lower the level of the ground. And I don't understand why that would be necessary, because again, we need the height to do the proper drainage of the system, and you're very close to waterways.
Sure. So this property here, we're really not close to any waterways. There are no wetlands on the property. There's no floodplain on the property. There's no wetlands within 100 feet of the property. The soil testing that we've done out here, we've designed the septic system so it complies with the 4-foot groundwater separation requirements. But what happens is if we can bring the system closer to the side lot lines, it allows us to push the system a little bit closer to the building. And for example, in the back here, the topography drops off rather significantly at the back of this lot. If we can pull the septic system closer to the building and make it a little bit wider and not as deep, it will reduce the height of the retaining wall around the backside of the system, which would in turn allow or reduce the amount of fill coming onto the site as well. That's that statement.
Joan, do we have any precedents for exceptions like this?
No. But I only know that the retaining wall piece was put in there for the protection of the abutters and the property lines. So Greg, I have a question. So you're actually asking to remove it because of the layout of the current property lines, so that you could move, so you could move so you want to be able to have more room for the septic system because of the way the property lines are set up?
So no, not quite.
Okay.
I don't think we would be moving it. I don't think we would be eliminating the wall in its entirety, but I think we could potentially reduce the height of it a little bit and maybe reduce some of the length of it. I still think we would need retaining wall. But a prime example here of where this might be beneficial is right where my cursor is here. This is this closest residential house to the project right here. The backyard at this house is at elevation 32. There's a fence that runs along the property line. The fence would stay there. On top of our septic system here is elevation 37, directly behind that house. In our parking lot, the grade is, elevation 34, elevation 35. So right here, the retaining wall is holding from elevation 37 down to 32. It's almost a 5-foot high retaining wall. Okay. You're not going to see the wall because there's a fence in front of it. Okay. If this wall, however, was moved a little bit closer to the lot line, say 10 feet off the lot line, we don't necessarily need to move the leaching field. We could keep the leaching field where it is, but between the leaching field and the retaining wall, it would now give us an area to plant on top of the wall that's that much higher in elevation, and it would provide a screen from this house above the height of the fence to screen anything that's in the parking lot area. Versus if we plant trees down here on the low side of this wall, you plant a 6-foot high tree, that's only going to cover to the top of the wall. Versus if you plant a 6-foot high tree on top of a 5-foot high retaining wall, you have a much more effective screen. So as we work with we have a landscape architect that's been retained in reviewing this. He wanted to know if there was any variation that we could take specifically in this area here. There's retaining walls further down associated with the parking lot. I feel that those are outside your purview. It's just the retaining wall associated with the septic system, which is where this bumps out to be 20 feet from the property line. So the septic may not get closer to the lot line, but if the retaining wall did, it allows us a landscape buffer on top of the wall to help with that screening purpose.
So when you spoke to the abutters, did you have any comment? Did you have any comments from them? You said you talked to the abutters?
We did. We've spoken
Okay.
with all the butters, and it was to increase the screening around the site. Is the primary comment from them.
Did they have any comments or?
The comment was to increase landscaping and screening
Okay.
around the site.
Are any abutters on right now, or?
Can you guys hear me at this point?
Yes,
Yep, we
Okay,
can.
this is Steve Bjorklund. I just want to chime in just for a quick second here. If the issue is the protection of the abutters, if we have Greg redesign this system with the wall at 10 feet or some distance that's less than the 20 feet from the property line, we certainly believe that we will be coming back to you with the official application and the support of the neighbors, whether they are at the meeting or whether we have letters from them indicating that the sole purpose of this is to actually give them a better buffer. That's the whole purpose of why we're doing it. So I think that you will be able to get them to sign something agreeing to that. And on the west side of the property, there is a wall on the abutting piece of property, a concrete wall that's about 1.5 feet off of our property line, which is for the neighbor's septic system. And we're actually working with them as well because part of our fill will go against the backside of their wall. So the neighbors have been great out here. And that's really why we're doing this, is because we believe that it's going to be better for them if we can get this buffering higher. And again, like Greg mentioned, this is probably going to be a temporary system because we will be tying it in eventually to town sewer, hopefully. That's all.
Any other questions from anybody on the board? Okay. Well,
personally, if we could, when the time came, if we had these letters or what have you from the abutters, I personally would have no objection to it.
That's fantastic, and I believe we will have that.
okay, well, I
Greg, is
think
this gonna be a pump chamber?
Yes, it will be.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Okay, so where are the septic tanks gonna be?
They'll be down closer to the building itself. They're going to be located right in this area here. The plumbing will come out the back and go to a septic tank, a pump chamber, and it'll pressure dose this leaching field. So, yeah. Either.
okay.
Am
Well,
I still on unmute right now?
you are.
Okay, Peter Samblom is one of the abutters in here, and he said he can't get off of mute. Could you allow him to speak?
Yeah, he's gonna did he raise his hand?
He just texted me on the telephone and said he can't get off mute.
Oh.
I love this Zoom stuff.
Seth, did you unmute Peter S?
Yeah.
I can't do it, but can you do it, Drew?
No,
Yeah,
I don't
can't
even
either.
see him up here.
Peter S. He's
Peter
in-
S. I think Drew, you're the,
Now, is he unmuted?
Not yet, no.
Oh my God, you're.
I'm sorry, who are you looking for? Peter?
Peter S. Yeah.
Peter,
please.
great. Peter, on your screen, you see an alert right there. You just unmute yourself.
I don't know what I did.
I'm not the one to fix it.
Peter is not unmuting himself.
How is he?
No.
No. Peter, if you touch the top of your screen, you should be able to unmute yourself. If you hit that, it should pop up.
Don't see anything.
Hang on, he's sending me another message.
Greg, has this gone to planning yet?
Okay, all right, for some reason, he's saying he still can't get off. He said, tell them that I will follow up with them. For some reason, he can't get this on the computer. But again, we want the support of the neighbors in order to be able to do this. We just want to know if the board would come along. So we will continue to work with the neighbors on this, and Peter will be in touch, I'm sure, prior to us actually designing the system. We want to make sure the neighbors are going to be okay before Greg actually gets the full design done, so that we only have to do this once.
Yep, that makes sense.
Greg, did you go to planning yet?
We've had our first meeting with the planning board, introduced them to the project, and we've been
And did they have
continued.
comments about the retaining wall?
They did. We've been continued to their late February meeting. Between now and then, we're going to be working on coming up with a full septic system design, looking at the wall, trying to reduce it if it's at all possible. And we have to go to the design review board to review the architectural aspects of the project. The planning board's also hired a peer review engineer to review all of the drainage associated and all of the grading associated with this project. So that's all ongoing.
So were they in favor of moving the wall?
So we didn't specifically talk about
Okay.
it with respect
Okay.
to setbacks to the lot lines.
Okay.
But they generally are in favor with reducing height of it, reducing fill to the site, and reducing length of wall. I can tell you that. So, okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the preview here, and good luck with the rest of your meetings, and I'm sure we'll be talking again.
Thank you very much. We
you.
appreciate the input.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is our agenda. On to any old business,
No old business,
any new business?
no new business.
Director's report, Drew.
So we have 10 plans under plan review right now. We have 8 plans awaiting engineering comments. We have 12 awaiting Concom comments. We have 14 as-built that we're waiting on, and we have 17 systems in failure. We did have the mammography van last Friday, and Teresa is getting ready to schedule it again for a date in January. We are still giving out flu shots on Fridays from 9 to 11 here at the office. You can go on to the Board of Health webpage and register, or you can call our office and we will make sure that you get registered. We are also finishing up all of the permitting of all of our licenses for the end of the year. Joan and Teresa do a great job getting out there and making sure that everybody gets their licenses and all their applications in. We also have been meeting with the sewer water department to review the policies and procedures for emergency sewer hookups. They haven't been updated since prior to the changes that were made to Title V. So we just wanted to tighten them up a little bit. We met with Will, and we're going before the select board to get approval for those. And the upgrades, it's similar to what we have now. We've just made it a little bit shorter as far as things that we have on hand now all the time. We don't have to ask other people for it because we already have it. Pumping records is one of the items that we've eliminated because we have that information already when we're going to do it. The other thing on there that we were concerned about was the what am I going to try to say? The definition of Title V availability as far as new systems that can be used on site. So we're trying to reduce, spaghetti lines. So it's very difficult, but we want to make sure an emergency hookup is an actual emergency. And another item that we looked to change was the amount of time that you have to hook up after you've been granted an emergency. We've come up upon an instance where emergency hookup was granted back in 2001, and they were looking to do it a couple of weeks ago, and it's like 20 years ago you had emergency hookup and you haven't done it yet. So we kind of put a time frame on that. Again, they hadn't been upgraded. It just came to our attention through that particular instance. So we looked at it, and we are going to be going before the select board, the water department, Will and myself, to get these approved by the select board, because they are the sewer commissioners. And lastly, through our public health FEP grant that we have with Hingham and Cohasset, we are in the process of putting out a community equity-based community health assessment. Boston University is putting it together with input from us, and we will be distributing that through various channels within the town of the, the library, the senior center. You'll be able to go online and take it. So that's part of the requirements of the grant that we have to do. So we're in the process of putting that together.
That's great.
May I ask, how many women use the mammogram facility?
It usually fills up every single time
Wonderful.
to make the appointments.
Wonderful.
So I know when they were in there last Friday, the morning was filled and they had walk-ins come in the afternoon, but
Excellent.
we're trying to get them back there every month. So it's a good program.
Definitely. Great. All right, Drew, thanks for that. Do we have any invoices to approve tonight?
We do have one invoice to approve for a perk test for $280. So if someone wants to make a motion to approve.
I so move.
I second that.
All right, and John, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Allison?
I vote yes.
And I approve as well.
And we did have minutes to the meeting from our prior meeting to approve, but we realized we didn't send them out till late. And with everything else that we were sending out to you tonight before the meeting, we said, we'll approve that next time. So we'll have 2 minutes to approve the next time. We didn't want another additional thing for you guys to have to go through.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. We'll do both next meeting. That sounds good. Okay, any other business we're missing?
All good.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second that.
All right, and John,
Yes,
how do you
I
vote?
approve.
Yes.
And Allison?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thanks, everyone.